So we're here with my mentor, my father, and one of my great inspirations, the owner of 43 years, Naples Auto Sales, Art Herrera. We're going to ask him how he got started in his business, what motivates him, and a series of questions so you guys can see, maybe learn something.
Good.
So, how did you get started in the auto industry?
Well, when I was younger, a lot younger, I worked with my dad in Los Angeles, detailing cars, and I would travel with him to a lot of the dealerships there in LA, and I would help them. I would help him clean up cars, detail cars. He would clean the engines and paint them, and then of course he would go on to another dealer. But anyways, I really liked that kind of business, but I never thought that it was something that I was going to do. But it just kind of put in my mind the car business in kind of a way.
Nice. So what inspired you to open your own dealership?
Well, first of all, in 1969, we moved to Utah. Me and my wife, we were missionaries for Jehovah's Witnesses, and we worked together for a couple of years, and we wound up having 6 kids. But so that made me need to do something to support my family. But anyways, we in 1981, after a series of small businesses that I worked at in Vernal, Utah, I opened up a dealership in Naples, which is right next, connected to Vernal. And I bought 3 or 4 trucks, set them on a little lot that we rented, and it got pretty busy. I really liked it. I enjoyed it. So I decided to build a facility just right up the street. It was just a piece of property, raw property. I bought a building I built a building there, which is currently has been remodeled a few times, but then we called it Naples Auto Sales, and it was something that I enjoyed doing. I used to buy cars at the auction, went to Brazier's auction, and then of course I started going to the Utah auto auction, which was fairly new at that time. And I would buy vehicles from both of those auctions. And sometimes they weren't very expensive vehicles. They were like $300, $400, $500 cars. Those were the really nice ones. And I would drive them back to Vernal or have them shipped back to Vernal from the auctions. And so anyways, that's how I started. I started a little bit of buy here, pay here, and it worked out good. So it's something that I really enjoyed and worked out good for us.
So that was your first year in business. Would you say that was a successful first year? How was that whole first year that you started?
Well, it was pretty tough, because at that time the cars weren't the best. Early 1980s, most of the cars were big cars with big engines, but I managed to make it happen. We got a few customers, and they eventually started coming back after the next couple of years, and so anyways, it was fun, but there was a lot of ups and downs.
So speaking of the ups and downs, what were some of the downs, or what were some of the challenges that you experienced when you started your business?
Well, of course, buying cars at the auction at that time, especially, I was pretty new in the business, and I really didn't know a real good car from a bad one. So I did buy some bad cars, and so that was where the challenge came in. What would we do with these cars? And of course, we tried to fix them. I would get outside help. I would get outside mechanics to help me fix them up and try to get them to run their best. And of course, you still had issues at that time, but we worked it out. And I would always try to help a customer, even if I would lose money. There were times where they would buy a car, and of course, in the car business, you always sell a car mostly as is. But there was times where a person would buy a car, and even 2-3 weeks later would come back and say, "Hey, I really have a major problem." I would help them, even if it cost money. So that was one of the things that people remembered our company for, and they kept coming back.
That's awesome. So is that what you say would make your dealership different than others, or how would you say your dealership was different? What was your philosophy and your approach with your business model?
Well, yeah, that was one of them, and of course, as you worked for Naples Auto for a few years before you moved here to Hawaii. Um, we always had our motto was deal with the friendly guys. So
Yeah, we still use that.
yeah, we still use that. We still use that here. So, but that was always something that I wanted anybody who worked for me, remember that, we're the friendly guys. And so we want to stay friends with our customers, even though they have issues, we still want to be friends with them. And the only way to do that is to help them out.
Well, that kind of answers my next question. That kind of tells us how you would build trust with customers. Is there any other ways that you would build trust with your customers other than
I
what
think
you
that
just talked about?
I think that's really the biggest thing. I know some dealers. Well, I've heard of some dealers that a customer would come back and they would tell with an issue, and they would tell them, "Hey, you bought the car as is, so you're on your own." And I have never felt that way. So we always help our customer. And of course, you're going to run into the customer who wants everything, all the time. But we try to help them as much as we can, even though it costs us money.
Yeah. So when you're searching for vehicles, what's your approach to selecting the right vehicles to inventory your lot, and how would you say your approach is for that?
Well, I've always taken advantage of the auction policies. If you bought a car with a green light, you have to check it out, of course. In 1980s, you had the day of the sale. You had to find out if there was a problem with the car, so you had to go out and drive it right after you bought it. And if there was an issue, you had to turn it in right away, because if you didn't, then you couldn't arbitrate the car. But so I was very careful that way. I never bought a car. I guess I did a few times, as is. And what happens when you buy an as-is car. You're just taking a chance. And so, but I always tried to buy cars with a green light, so you could take advantage of, if there was a problem, they would help you out.
That's good. So, and speaking of the community, how important is community involvement to you in like your identity for your dealership as far as a community standpoint?
Well, Naples Auto Sales is a member of the Chamber of Commerce there in Vernal, and we always try to attend the meetings that they have when we can. And so we try to be involved in that. And of course, there's always high school kids coming in wanting donations for their uniforms, which we do. We help them out as much as we can. But we just try to be involved and try to get some of the kids, high school kids, even to come and work part-time when they can.
And then we all know that you can't do everything on your own. You have to have help. So tell us a little bit about your team, how they support you, and how they contribute to your success that you've had over the years.
Yeah, that's a good question because sometimes, and I was at the point sometimes where I would want to do every single little thing. Of course, when I opened up my dealership, I was a salesman, I was the buyer, I was a mechanic, I was a detailer. But then I, of course, had help there with my kids, such as you. You started helping there at the dealership. And so you have to depend on others to make things work. If you don't, then you're going to wind up just doing all the work yourself and you're going to burn yourself out. So we have to depend on others. And now it's to the point now where we have employees that we use for every part of the dealership.
So is there any one moment that stands out that you're really proud of one of your team members or maybe the whole team? And what would your reflections be on that?
Well, I don't think there's one moment that I remember doing that, but we recognize every month we have a little contest with all the people there, the salespeople, and every other person in the dealership. Actually, even to right now, we have the employee of the month, and we have a meeting every the first Friday of the month, and we talk about the previous month, and we nominate. Everybody nominates employee of the month, and that's a lot of fun because they know that they're recognized for the hard work that they do, and so they're happy, and we're all happy.
That sounds good. So looking back, what are you most proud of about your career?
That I've been able to endure the ups and downs. I mean, there's been a lot of downs, which is the worst part of this business. But if you get through the down times, it makes you stronger, and you learn from those any mistakes, and you go on. Just keep going. Don't give up, and that's what happened to me.
That sounds like good advice. Is there any one piece of advice that you could give to somebody that's just starting up in the business?
Yeah, as I mentioned, you're going to have a lot of ups and downs, but you can't give up. You have to continue, learn from your mistakes, and don't give up. If you give up, then it's going to get to you. So you can't do that.
So where do you see your dealership going in the next 5 to 10 years?
Well, of course, they're here in Vernal. Most of my kids, my boys, I have 3 boys working for me there, and hopefully that they'll take over and keep the dealership going. I'm not going to sell and just leave them out in the woods, but they do really good. They help us. They do good work, and so that's my plan in the future.
Well, we have that on recording, folks.
Yeah. Okay.
No. Well, thank you. I think that's all the questions. I think we can wrap this up.
Yeah. Well, one more thing I want to say.
Yeah.
Of course, you were one of my salesmen there in Vernal, and moved here to Hawaii, and you and me started a dealership here, which is doing very good, and so I appreciate your hard work, and so that's what keeps me going. Everybody's hard work. So thank you.
Yeah, maybe we can get nominated over here eventually.
Yeah, that's good. We'll try for that.
All right, thanks. Art Herrera, folks, 43 years owning Naples Auto Sales, a very successful dealership. All right.
and lots of